Hello and welcome back, Potters. It's great to see you. I've got a super fun tutorial for us today that I'm really looking forward to getting started on, so let's just head on over and start. Okay, so I'm time-lapsing this quite a bit just because the first step to this style of jar is to throw like a large cylinder. Like, you don't have to do anything special with the rim of the pot. Because the flange, or in other words, the part that fits the lid and the pot together, that piece is on the lid. So all you start with is just a cylinder, kind of an XL cylinder. For me, I'm making what I'm considering like a cookie jar or like a treat jar. Really like that concept. So I'm making it kind of extra large, but also I just thought that would help for it to kind of show up on camera a little bit better. So it did take me about 10 minutes to throw this. It was about 3.5 pounds. And honestly, I think I probably could have gotten more out of it. But, you know, I don't throw large too often, so I did my best. And it ended up working out for the tutorial and looking the way that I kind of wanted it to look. So here I'm just doing, you know, basic pulling of a vertical form, pulling a cylinder. I did want to kind of, because I'm not sure if I've ever done this in a demo before, where the piece gets taller than like where you can pull the walls by touching your hands together. Like, you know, when you have to put your hands kind of far down, like you can't feel each hand can't feel the other hand except for through the clay. So I just wanted to kind of give a little tip there. Like, bring your hands together when you can at the top. And when you can't, just keep your arms close to your body. Like, try to stay compact. Don't let yourself stretch out during that point, because then you kind of wear yourself out. So anyway, if you need to see how to just throw a basic cylinder, though, we have a video about that. It does kind of change when you start adding weight and getting into bigger pieces, but you can get the general concept in that video. And by practicing, the only way to make it easier is just to practice. You know, throwing larger things, just, it's tough. So yeah, just give it a try, practice, and you should be fine. Okay, so I'm just finishing this up here, smoothing out the walls. You don't have to do that part. I know I've said that on here a million times, but if you like throwing rings, have them there. Okay, so the next step is super important. I'm measuring the opening of the pot, and I have my calipers. These are calipers. This is how we can measure the diameter of a piece. And to get the closest measurement, when you're doing the inside of a pot, you want the calipers to be crossed like this, so that they can get down into the interior, like, edge or lip. Okay, and so I'm going to remove the pot now. And instead of just relying on leaving the calipers in that position, I'm gonna grab some paper and I'm gonna make myself like a marking of that measurement so that I can use the calipers differently on the next piece to get the measurement like more accurate. So I'm marking down at the very tip of the measurement that the calipers are on right now. Just a little dot. And then on the next piece, when I go to throw the lid, I'm actually going to want to measure my lid with the calipers open. So now that I have these marks, I can uncross the calipers and line it up with these marks so that I have the measurement correct, and I can put the calipers up against the lid piece to make sure that it's going to fit down inside of the pot. So basically, you measure the interior diameter of the pot, and then you use that measurement on the exterior of the lid, because those are you're getting down into really the exact two edges that need to meet together. So I've got my measurement. Now I'm ready to throw the lid. And this is sort of, I feel like maybe we should make a separate video of just this part, because this is sort of the bread and butter of like what makes the whole thing work. But I've got, let's see, I had about a 3.5 pound cylinder. So this is gonna be bigger than what you think you need, but I think this is about 2 pounds of clay. It's somewhere around there. So don't shortchange yourself on the clay when you're making a lid with a flange. You will need a decent amount. And I'm just centering here, and I am centering low and wide. A lid is low and wide, so I'm gonna center low and wide. And I'm even gonna try to center it out to where it is wider than the measurement of the calipers right now, so I'm not quite there yet. I'm gonna keep going. This is kind of like the process for making a plate. You just flatten and center, flatten and center. Sometimes centering low and wide can kind of feel weird, but yeah, you just flatten it, stretch it out, and then bring the sides back to center. Just keep doing that until you have the size that you need. And I'm just going to take away a little bit of excess here so I can really see, and you can really see like how wide I've actually gotten the piece, because it's going to take me another pass or two. And I just made a mark right there, because that's about where I need to divide the vertical and horizontal part of the flange. So I'm just moving some clay out into that mark that I just made, because I want to make sure I have enough there to kind of, it's almost like you do pull up little walls, and that is what makes the flange. If you're having trouble picturing what is a flange, and I know there's other terms for it as well, it's just like a little wall that rests down in the pot and keeps the lid secure on top of the pot. So I'm just kind of trying to move some clay around to make sure that I have what I need. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. You definitely need some excess around that measurement as well, because you want like kind of some overhang. Like you want, that's where the top of the lid will overhang the top of the pot. I know in my mind, verbally, it doesn't make that much sense, but when you see it, it will come together. Okay, so I'm opening this like a bowl, because if we want the top of the lid to be round, we have to make the interior of it round right now. So this is rounded. You're not going to see me make a hard corner in this edge, and that might make it look kind of bulky, but I'm going to start putting the roundness into the piece now, because I want it to dome up a little bit on the top. So when I'm trimming it, I need the interior to match what I'm going to trim on the exterior. I'm just cleaning this up a little bit. And again, I moved in that opening that you just saw me do, I moved some clay out into that flange area. So it looks like it's too much right now, but that little rollover that you see there, that's gonna be the material that I use to pull those little walls or that little flange up and out of. And I'm gonna define, kind of put some definition there. And so the part that I'm working on right now, that's like that part that will overhang when the pot is setting on the lid, like overhang the rim of the pot when the lid and the pot are together. So giving that some nice definition. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do some real gentle, shallow pulls on this flange. Again, this is the piece that will go inside the pot when you put the lid on the pot. And folks, I was always instructed not to make a flange too delicate, too thin. So that's why you didn't see me pull much height up out of that. Oh yeah, the measurement's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. Anyway, if a flange is too delicate, it has a greater chance of breakage, because, you know, this is a moving part that gets lifted in and out and bumped against the side. Yeah, bumped against the side of the pot. So make your flange kind of generous so that it's just not overly delicate. I'm just kind of cleaning up the interior, reinforcing my curve, sort of just checking things, cleaning things up. Oh, sorry, my head's in the way. I needed to see that part a little bit closer. I think this is pretty close. It's looking pretty good. Again, I'm just doing a little bit of refining here. Also, I find anytime that I have a piece that's got a lot of like surface area on the bat and that's kind of low and wide and thin, sometimes it's hard for me using these plaster bats, it's hard to get it because the plaster is designed to just release the clay, so you don't have to run a wire under it. That's why you never see me doing that. But with pieces like this or like a plate or anything low and wide, sometimes I have a hard time getting them unstuck in the right drying time. So usually I'll do a little something on the side to release it, like run the needle tool under it a little bit. Here's the profile. Or just run a little tool around the edge just so it gets a little bit of air under there. And I am going to do a little bit of adjusting here, you know, on second thought. That measurement's pretty close, but it's grabbing a little bit of clay when I set it down. So I'm just going to see if I can sharpen up that corner with my rib. Just going to set that, yeah, and put that sharp angle of that rib right into that corner. That should clean it up quite a bit. Because the measurement was looking good at the top of the flange, but at the bottom it was kind of scraping against it a little bit. Yeah, I think that's better. And here it is. I've run the tool under it for kind of an easy release. And I'm just trying to see if the flange fits the pot right now. So that was my big cylinder flipped over, what you just saw there. It was kind of not fully on camera, but that's what I was doing there. And it was a little too tight of a fit. So I am going to trim this a little bit before I remove it like fully from the bat. And that's just an easy way to trim. You know, if it's still stuck down a little bit, you can trim it like with it being centered up the way it originally was, which is always kind of, I don't know, keeps it simple, you know, not to have to recenter. And it's sticking a little bit, but it's coming off in ribbons enough. And you know, there shouldn't be a terribly large amount of trimming on a piece like this. I mean, there could be, you know, if you just wanted to kind of make it extra bulky and do the refinement through trimming, that would be fine. But for me today, I need to be careful with it because I'm feeling like it could get away from me fast and I could make that flange just too thin. So I'm going to sort of check as I go before I take away too much material. But yeah, it's sticking a little bit. It's bugging me. Okay, I'll try to fit it again. Okay, and that's fitting quite a bit better. Still pretty snug though. I think I'm gonna do one more pass and see if I can get the fit to be a little bit more comfy. Because, you know, sometimes if it's too tight, weird things can happen in the kiln and you won't be able to, you know, the lid kind of gets stuck on depending on how the piece settles and how the glaze settles. So, you know, with any lidded form or any pieces that fit together, you always want, like, I think I don't know where I picked up this term, but you want there to be like a little bit of air in between. So it's like you want some space, but not even enough to call it space. Just call it air. Just the tiniest bit of oxygen. So I don't know if that's a helpful descriptor or not. Probably not. That's very abstract. But basically you want a tiny bit of wiggle room. So that's what I'm going for here. And sharpen up that angle down there again too. If it gets too rounded at that meeting point between the vertical and the horizontal edge, then you kind of have a lid that doesn't, I don't know, it just like doesn't lock in as much. All right, just getting some scraps off of here. Again, this is a tiny, tiny bit sticky, but try it again. Okay, that feels much better. That feels good. I think we're about ready to, once this releases from the bat, it will be ready to trim on the top. So what I was just trimming there, I'm sure you understand this at this point, so I might be over-explaining, but what I was just trimming there is the bottom of the lid. And the next step will be to trim the top, the part that I was talking about that we want to be a dome, and then add a knob, and that will be the last step. Because I actually already trimmed the bottom of the jar. I kind of put a foot on it and angled it up a little bit down there, took away the excess materials. So here I'm just kind of cleaning this up a little bit. If you do need to see how to trim a foot, we also have a video on that. So I didn't include it here just because the video, I didn't want it to get too long, but if you need to see it, there's a video about it. Okay, so I just want to, this is off the bat now. I just want to make sure it's still fitting. It's fitting nicely, but I can see I have a lot of trimming to do on the top part of it. It's a really big overhang. So I've got this on my foam bat. You could certainly do this with that trick that you use where you put water on the wheel head and center, or you could lug it down. However you wanted to, secure this is fine. But we're gonna get it centered, and we are gonna take away quite a bit of material here. It's too wide. Like I said, it was like overhanging too much, and we also need to get a nice, just a very gentle dome or curve into this. So I'm gonna keep my tool angled. Ooh, those ribbons. This is trimming super nicely, so satisfying. I'm gonna keep my tool at an angle. If you keep your tool angled, let's see, how do I put this into words? Angled up and towards the the top center point, and then just move from the edge to that center point. That's kind of like a surefire way to get at least a little bit of a curve in it, guys. And if it's a very gentle curve, if it's almost flat, even if you can get a little bit of curve into it, I mean, with a lid, that's sort of what you want. You don't want a big protruding dome form coming out of the top of your jar. So we want a little bit of tension to it. We want a little bit of an angle. And by angling the tool and not letting yourself, get it completely like the tool going completely horizontal, you can kind of ensure that you will get sort of just that gentle curve, that gentle dome. So it's getting there. I do need to take some width off of it, so I'm gonna have to just basically shave some of the, take some of this material off of here and bring it in a little bit. Yeah, that's looking better. We're getting there. It'll probably take me a couple more passes. Although it is starting to feel a little bit, I don't know, it's feeling a little bit it feels like it might be bending or moving a little bit on me, so I probably need to wrap this up. I love to trim, so once I start, I can kind of get lost in the sauce and trim too much, but this is definitely close. And I'm also gonna make a little flat area for the knob. So I guess technically the curve kind of doesn't come to a stopping point right at the top center point, because you want to leave that little flat area to attach on the knob. So just a little disclaimer about that. All right, it's looking pretty good. I think we're ready to move on. So I've got a small piece of clay here. And I'm just going to score up where I want the knob to be. I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's just usually, top center. So I sort of traced that out a little bit. That area that I left for myself that I trimmed flat. And I'm just scoring right on that little circle. And then I'm scoring right on the bottom of this little piece of clay. And this is, I don't know, ping pong ball sized. Now, you can see this is unformed, so I'm going to throw this knob right on top of the lid. I'm kind of streamlining that process, but you can also throw knobs off the hump and then just attach them like a normal attachment off the wheel. But I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, wanted to challenge myself today. I haven't done this in a while, so it's really, you know, if you can get past the fact that there's probably going to be some challenges and failures with throwing like pieces on top of other pieces, it can be pretty fun. Like, you just have to know sometimes it's not going to go perfectly, but you know, that's okay. So that's why I chose to do this today. I just was like, you know what? If it doesn't work, it'll be just another learning opportunity to share with people. So anyway, as usual, we center up the piece and then you try to center up the clay. It's, you know, it's nerve-wracking because you don't want to push down too hard. You don't want to get too much water on it. But I kind of do like a sort of a coning method here. Instead of just trying to go straight down and like let the clay go out and into your hand to center, I definitely kind of bring it more like up. Oh, how do I finish my sentence? I bring it more up and down, a modified cone, a tiny cone. So I don't know why I was making it harder than I need to describe that. But yeah, you know, that way you're not drenching it with water because the water kind of stays at like a higher point. And yeah, just kind of, for me, that works well. So now I'm going to start putting kind of like a generalized shape of a knob. And I'm just going to do like a very basic shape here, friends. I'm not going to do a hollow knob or anything like that. I'm just going to sort of shape it. So I'm just bringing in that narrow part. And also right here, I'm making sure that, like the attachment is good and solid. Then I'm just going to bring out the top and sort of clean it up. Something about throwing the knob directly on is you kind of have to do it quickly. So that's another reason why I just kind of told myself, just do a basic knob shape. Because if you're working on it forever and ever, the lid can get oversaturated and like weakened. So I'm just keeping it real simple. Hold on, I forgot to pull something over to my workspace. Sorry. Okay, so I needed my little wedge sponge because it can fit under that curved part of the knob and dry it out under there for me. You want to keep it pretty dry. I mean, obviously we need a little bit of water to get this done, but don't let it just set on the top of the lid. So that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm just going to refine. So just using my metal rib. I got a funny comment on here the other day that was like, everyone uses the metal rib, because it was on one of the videos where I mentioned like, I know some people don't like the metal rib, but like I use it for everything, so I don't know. I thought that was kind of a funny comment, but anyway, that's the lid. There's the profile. I'm happy with it. Let me show you how the whole thing turned out put together. So this is the jar with the lid on top. And I hope this helped. Let me know if you try it. Bye-bye.